estimated projected construction that will happen in 2013? And finally, what is the projected start date for the residential and multifamily noise control? And that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
They will be in touch with you. Mr. Cardinale.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Matthew Charles Cardinale, news editor of AtlantaProgressiveNews.com and the Vice Treasurer of Fulton Atlanta Community Action Authority. First of all, I just wanted to say to Ms. Moore, you're doing an amazing job, and thank you for your work today on this issue, and congratulations on your recent recognition by Common Cause Georgia. In my opinion, Ms. Moore, you set an example that I believe all other council members should strive to. Thank you. I'm here to talk about the closed-door briefings. We still have some closed-door briefings with our city council. In my opinion, they are the epitome of everything that is wrong with our democracy and why so many people have disengaged from our process. To me, the law is the least important reason to be concerned about closed-door committee briefings. The primary issue is one of participatory democracy, transparency, and public confidence. As the Georgia Constitution states, elected officials are the servants and trustees of the people and are amenable to them at all times. I think when any committee chairman invites one or two reporters, but not a cameraman or not the general in public, it suggests that sensitivity of information is not the reason motivating the closure of the meeting. After all, if the information were so sensitive, as Cesar Mitchell suggested in a memo last year, then reporters would not have been invited to hear the information. And Monday's episode suggests to me that the real reason for the closure of the meetings may be a general contempt for the general public on the part of some council members. The Georgia Open Meetings Act already identifies executive session as the appropriate venue for a quorum of committee members to go into a closed meeting. Another thing I think we learned Monday is that committee members and chairs cannot be counted on to prevent a quorum of council members from attending a closed briefing. And I think we've all been in agreement, the law department, the attorney general, and I, that you cannot have a quorum at a closed briefing. So I think this scheme where we rely on you all behind closed doors to avoid a quorum is not working out. I want to thank Chairwoman Moore of the Finance Executive Committee and Chairwoman Archibong of City Utilities for agreeing to open up their briefings to the public. As many of you know, I have a lawsuit pending regarding these briefings where I'm arguing that they are required to be open even when there is not a quorum of committee members present or not, and that's due to case law called Jersowitz v. Fortson. But Ms. Moore and Ms. Archibong made the decision to open up their meetings because they decided it was the right thing to do. In other words, we don't have to spend money litigating this issue to clarify what the law requires. The Open Meetings Act gives us the minimum requirements of how our meetings to be conducted, not the maximum of what we can do. We can always go above what we think the law requires. So now the question is, what are we going to do going forward? I would submit to you there are really two options. And one, which is to open up the briefings which remain closed to the public. Then, of course, you can have a quorum. You don't have to worry about who's there. The other option would be to scale them back to what Chairman Michael Bond is currently doing with the Public Safety Committee briefing, which is more in line with the original intent of these briefings when they were called committee chairs briefings, and that is simply to brief the chair on what's coming up procedurally in that meeting, and that can be done by the policy analyst. We don't need 30 members of the administration to do that. Look at what the briefings have turned into, a small village, practically, of council members and department heads and their staff pre-discussing substantive matters on the agenda of the council committee. For example, this controversial issue that we discussed today that I understand was discussed privately. And in the long run, and while I'm urging the Transportation Committee to open up its briefings or to scale them back, as Mr. Bond has done alternatively, I urge the same for the other committee chairs who have discretion on this issue. I think ultimately we need to look at legislation to set forth the purpose of these briefings, the scope of the briefings. I made a records request. I've made several records requests, and there's not a single mention in the charter, the code of ordinances, the council rules of council. This practice that's been going on for 20 years is simply a practice that's not set out anywhere. And I think that that's the best way that, first of all, I don't want to go through this again in 2013 if we have 7 new committee chairs. And second of all, I think it's extremely confusing to the public where we are now, where we have 7 briefings that are advertised, 1 that they don't really consider a briefing, 2 that are open, 4 that as far as we know are closed. That's very confusing. So I think if we can kind of get all on the same page and set that out in legislation and set it out in a clear advertising scheme, that the public would benefit from that. So I want to thank everyone for their attention to this matter. You know, it's something I've been working on for a long time, and I just ask you to do the right thing. Thank you.
And one of the things that you should do is, is you could just call my name. It's all right. You can just call my name because it was, I'm the person that you had a problem with, but a lot of your information is wrong. But yes.
Good afternoon, Kristen Denius with the Law Department. As Mr. Cardinale mentioned, he does have pending litigation surrounding this exact matter, so my advice would be that we refrain from commenting on it at this time. Thank you.
All right.